be back. Maybe there's going to be a little good news in here today. What do you think? Maybe, maybe not. But we'll look for some. We'll catch you in 5.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Amazon Prime Video with Lorena, the new docuseries that shares Lorena Bobbitt's side of the story and investigates the headlines and press coverage 25 years later. Lorena, now streaming on Amazon Prime Video.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. Donald Trump's former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, testified before Congress today about the president's business dealings and the 2016 presidential campaign. As NPR's Tim Mack reports, Cohen gave the public a behind-the-scenes look into what Trump allegedly expected from his longtime employee.
As Trump's so-called fixer, Cohen was expected to solve problems that could prove embarrassing to Trump. Here's California Democrat Jackie Speer questioning him.
How many times did Mr. Trump ask you to threaten an individual or entity on his behalf?
Quite a few times.
50 times?
More.
100 times?
More.
200 times?
More.
500 times?
Probably.
Cohen also said that Trump provided false documents to a bank, inflating his assets in order to apply for a loan, and that the then presidential candidate directed efforts to explore a Trump Tower business proposal in Russia during the 2016 presidential campaign. Tim Mack, NPR News, Washington.
President Trump held what he called his very special relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un today as they met in Vietnam for the beginning of their second summit. Trump saying he's satisfied with the current pace of denuclearization talks between the two countries, despite some criticism over a lack of progress.
We had a very successful first summit. I felt it was very successful. And some people would like to see it go quicker. I'm satisfied. You're satisfied. We want to be happy with what we're doing.
Trump referring to positive meetings and dialogue thus far, speaking before a dinner in Hanoi, facing pressure at home over investigations into Russian interference in the 2016 election and testimony on Capitol Hill from his former lawyer Michael Cohen. Trump sits down with Kim tomorrow for a series of meetings, beginning with a one-on-one session. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer told a House committee today real progress is being made in trade talks with China. NPR's Jim Zarroli says the U.S. won't agree to any deal, though, that doesn't address longstanding structural problems with Chinese trade policy.
Lighthizer told the House Ways and Means Committee that the U.S. has been engaged in what he called very intensive, extremely serious, and very specific talks with China.
Let me be clear. Much still needs to be done, both before an agreement is reached and, more importantly, after.
Lighthizer said any trade deal has to include enforcement provisions so that China lives up to its promises. The Trump administration wants China to agree to open its markets and stop the theft of intellectual property. Trump initially threatened to impose higher tariffs on Chinese imports by this Friday, but he extended the deadline because he said progress is being made. Jim Zarroli, NPR News.
On Wall Street, the Dow closed down 72 points. The Nasdaq was up 5 points today. You're listening to NPR. Crews have now demolished 7 of the 8 prototype border walls in San Diego. Less than 2 hours after they began, the border wall prototypes had fallen into clouds of dust as a large hydraulic jackhammer attached to an excavator pounded the walls repeatedly. A panel made of steel poles was also dismantled. The Trump administration has said the demolished prototypes, which cost between $300,000 and $500,000 to build, will be melded into the current fence designs. Opponents of the wall say the prototypes were monuments to wasted tax dollars and a misguided display of aggression toward Mexico and immigrants. Rain is making an unwelcome return to the South after the wettest February on record in some areas. One town in Mississippi is surrounded by water. Blake Farmer of member station WPLN reports emergency authorities are concerned about swollen rivers and lakes.
In Salina, Tennessee, most residents are back in their homes after torrential weekend flash flooding. The community's downstream from giant reservoirs, including Kentucky's Lake Cumberland, which is at record levels and releasing massive amounts of water. Clay County, Tennessee Emergency Management Director Natalie Boone is warning the community that it won't take much to force evacuations again.
We anticipate this being an extended thing. We hoping for as little rain as possible for a while.
Rivers from Kentucky to Alabama have been cresting near record levels. The Army Corps of Engineers has closed commercial traffic in some areas for the next month as all the water moves downstream. For NPR News, I'm Blake Farmer in Nashville.
Crude oil futures jumped by their biggest level in nearly a month. Oil closing up $1.44 a barrel to end the session at $56.94 a barrel in New York. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
Support for this NPR podcast and the following message come from Lexus, the first ever Lexus UX crossover, available in hybrid all-wheel drive, inspired by architecture and shaped by street corners. The city-smart Lexus UX, crafted to conquer the new frontier. Experience amazing.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 5 minutes after the hour. And just like that, we are back. Thank you for being here. If you missed that first hour, I'm sorry. But no frets, because you know what? We have archives. You can listen to them on Spreaker.com. Just search WBHMDB. You can listen to us on iHeart, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean. We're everywhere. We're just all over the place. And you're going to want to get this one. You can download it on Spreaker because this is Edwin F. Becker, and he is the author and experiencer of the events in his book True Haunting, and True Haunting 2, which is actually True Haunting about to be a major motion picture. So you'll have to be looking for that. Probably 2020, you said, right? Right, Ed?
I'm guessing only because, a lot of people think, okay, you make a movie, you pull out a video camera and you start filming. No, that's not. No, they invest so many millions of dollars in it that they pay big bucks for everything that they're doing, and they want perfection. So when my screenplay writer, Rich, finished the screenplay, he had to submit it to the major company, which was Screen Gems, and then to Sony, because Sony owns Screen Gems.
Right.
So they each had to have a crack at it and be happy with it before they gave it back to him. And, yeah, they'll spend untold money, and they don't care much about time.
Well, they want to get it right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to work. If I was young, I'd like to work in Hollywood because they take off around the week after Thanksgiving for the whole Christmas season.
Really?
Yeah. And then if they're not, if they got any positions at all, they take off New Year's for another 2 months because they go to these film festivals, Cannes and Sundance and all these film festivals, and then they don't go there for a day. They spend a week. They spend a week in Aspen and wherever they're going. So they take a lot of time off, but they bust their butt once it comes May to December.
Well, that's what I understand, that when they are working, they're working diligently.
Yeah, they don't know a clock. There's no such thing as hours.
No.
So, yeah, they're very, very hardworking people. And I still am feeling blessed because the people I'm dealing with, when they evaluated the book, and they sent me this huge, it's got about a dozen pages of evaluation of what their evaluators, they read the book and they each gave an evaluation of what the dialogue was, what the character definition was, and all that good stuff. But in the end, they came up and they said, yeah, we just love this book. We love the story. And they got it. Okay, they got it. They got it that it wasn't a horror movie.
Yes.
That it was, built up motion. And the screenwriter told me, he said I should be real happy with what he did. He said, because he builds the emotion up, and he said in the end is where it all hits the fan. He said, and there's a big, what he called a big reveal. So, yeah, I feel very, very lucky.
It sounds to me, based on what I've heard from other people, that you were very lucky.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt. But, luck comes to those who wait, because
yes.
I booted a number of people, and their authors and things. They all thought I was giving them BS. Yeah, I got another movie contract. I got a pile of movie contracts on my desk in my office, 3 inches high. No, I didn't want to do it, and unless I was sure. And with these people, I was absolutely sure. So I'm not even thinking twice or worried about it at all. They're going to stay within the definition of the book. Now, I was surprised. I don't know if you saw the press release.
I did.
That they released. I was kind of surprised in that press release that they mentioned my name and the book title, which kind of implies that they may use the book title as the movie title.
Well, it's a very well-known experience. So
yeah, one of my concerns,
they would benefit, I think, from that.
Yeah, one of my concerns was I wanted writer's credit.
Right.
So somewhere at the end of the movie, or wherever they put the credits, I wanted, based on true story or based on inspired by the book True Haunting by Edwin F. Becker. And they attached me to the director. So what they told me is my name will be immediately after the director's name, wherever the credits are. They don't decide that until the very end, whether they're going to do it at the front or at the back.
Right. Sometimes they do it both, don't they? Like the major credits.
I'm sorry, they what?
Sometimes they do the major credits both front and back, don't they?
Yeah. Most of the times with well-made movies, typically they're at the end.
Okay.
When I see a movie that has all the credits up front, it kind of tells me that maybe they think you're not going to stick around long enough to see the rear.
I had not contemplated that side of it. Good point. Touche, monsieur. So.
But I'm not my script writer came here, he was kind of surprised. I'm not a horror movie person. So there were a few movies that we discussed that I'd seen, of course. Number one, the King of Kings, Exorcist. And I told the story of The Exorcist. That whole movie was novelized. Yes. Not one good thing that's true in that movie. Not a one.
That's just wild.
And,
really?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was
I
a
know
little
that
boy.
It was a. Yeah, I know it was a little boy.
Boy, not a girl. He was actually exorcised 15 times by various denominations before they took him to the Catholics, and Catholics demanded that he becomes Catholic before they exorcise him. But simultaneously, his parents put him in a nut house, in a mental institution. So at the same time, the Catholics were visiting doing their exorcism, which was done in a mental institution. The people in the mental institution were treating him with drugs. And when they finally it came time to let him go, there was a big dispute over who did what. And then, including the Catholics, the two priests who dealt with it, they didn't even agree to what was happening.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was a mess. So
that is a mess.
The writer, he just had a wonderful, wonderful imagination, and I loved it that he stayed. He really stayed within the Catholic boundaries. So I like that movie. But there's not, when I go to Amityville, I looked at that and I said, that's baloney. That's a bunch of baloney. And not today. I know one of the Lutz children.
I do too.
Christopher.
Yes.
Yeah, he said it's baloney. And other things you see. To me, the movie industry contaminated the world of paranormal.
I think the television industry has too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I don't even understand why people watch the programs.
I can see why they would watch some of them, but I think that so much has been allowed to go on without repercussion, without the people of the paranormal coming out and saying, this is just not right, because everybody's so busy trying to be on a show that it's really difficult. I mean, I read and do interviews and stuff when I get approached. I don't mind doing that. And if it were something that was interesting